Ethan Cole hated night shifts at Ravencrest Dam. The giant hydroelectric structure sat alone in the mountains, surrounded by endless forest and a black reservoir that locals feared for decades. Old workers claimed people disappeared near the dam during storms, but Ethan never believed the stories. Until the night everything changed. A violent thunderstorm hit just before midnight. Lightning flashed across the massive concrete walls while alarms suddenly activated throughout the control room. Ethan grabbed his radio. "Marcus, you reading me?" Only static answered. Then a weak woman's voice whispered through the speaker. "Please, don't let it out." The transmission died. Every monitor inside the control room suddenly glitched. Dark water appeared across the screens, and beneath the water, Ethan saw pale human faces staring upward silently. The lights failed. A loud metallic groan echoed from deep below the dam. Ethan forced himself toward the lower maintenance tunnels, where the pressure alarms originated. Water dripped from the ceilings as he descended into darkness. At level B3, he discovered blood floating in ankle-deep water and Marcus's broken helmet lying near an open flood tunnel. Then he saw her. A pale woman standing at the end of the corridor with soaking wet black hair covering her face. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. The tunnel lights exploded. Ethan ran deeper into the flood tunnel, searching for an exit. But instead, he found a gigantic underground chamber beneath the dam. Ancient symbols covered the walls. Hundreds of names were scratched into the stone, beside dates, matching decades of missing people from nearby towns. Black water filled the chamber. Bodies floated beneath the surface. Suddenly, every corpse opened its eyes. The water erupted violently as something enormous moved below them. Ethan pointed his flashlight downward and saw a gigantic human-like eye opening beneath the reservoir. The woman appeared beside him again. "They fed it for years," she whispered. "Now it's awake." A massive pale face slowly rose from the black water. Its mouth stretched impossibly wide, filled with screaming human bodies trapped inside. Ethan sprinted for the tunnels while the entire dam shook around him. Concrete cracked. Pipes exploded. Behind him, the creature roared loud enough to shake the mountain itself. He barely escaped before emergency blast doors sealed shut behind him. 3 days later, the government evacuated Ravencrest Dam permanently. But during storms, locals still hear scratching beneath the concrete walls. And sometimes, when lightning strikes the reservoir, they see faces moving beneath the water. Tyler Grant wanted viral content. That's why he convinced his friends Claire and Mason to explore the abandoned Redmorn Dam for their paranormal video channel. The place had been shut down since 1998 after a mysterious chemical accident. Though locals believed something far worse happened there, the enormous dam looked dead when they arrived. Rust covered the floodgates. Cracks spread across the concrete walls. Someone had spray-painted a warning near the entrance. "Do not listen." Inside, the air smelled rotten. As the group explored deeper underground, they began hearing whispers echoing through the walls. "Help me!" Claire froze. That sounded real. Tyler laughed nervously, but even he looked uneasy now. The lower tunnels were colder than ice. Strange claw marks covered the concrete, and their camera batteries drained unusually fast. Eventually, they reached an old monitoring station where one dusty security monitor still worked. Static flickered across the screen. Then old footage appeared. Workers were running through the corridors, screaming in terror. Something chased them through the darkness. The footage glitched violently before freezing on a horrifying pale face with huge black eyes and an unnaturally wide smile. The monitor exploded. The room went dark. When Tyler switched his flashlight back on, Mason was gone. "Mason?" Tyler shouted. Only whispers answered. Then footsteps echoed from below. The group followed the sound deeper underground until they discovered Mason standing motionless in a flooded tunnel. He slowly turned toward them. Black liquid poured from his mouth. "It's awake now," he said, in a voice that wasn't his. Suddenly the walls began shaking violently. Water burst through cracks in the concrete, while emergency alarms screamed overhead. Shapes crawled across the ceilings in the darkness behind Mason. Tall, human-like creatures with twisted limbs and stretched mouths. Tyler grabbed Claire and ran. The creatures chased them through flooding tunnels, while hundreds of voices whispered from inside the walls. "Stay below!" "Feed it!" They barely escaped through an emergency stairwell before the steel doors slammed shut behind them. Outside, lightning illuminated the reservoir. Something gigantic moved beneath the black water. Then Tyler saw it. A colossal pale face beneath the surface opened its eyes and smiled directly at him. Every floodgate exploded outward. Black water flooded the valley below as Tyler and Claire escaped into the storm. Months later, Claire disappeared from her apartment. Police found every room flooded with black water, despite no broken pipes. The words "stay below" were scratched across the walls. Tyler never uploaded the footage. But some nights he still hears whispering through his drains. In 1974, a terrible storm nearly destroyed Hollow Ridge Dam. Official reports claimed 17 workers died during the disaster. Arthur Vane knew the truth. More than 50 years later, Arthur finally told his granddaughter Lily what really happened beneath the dam. According to Arthur, construction workers discovered ancient caves under the valley while building Hollow Ridge decades earlier. Deep inside those caves, they found carvings showing giant creatures beneath rivers devouring humans. The caves were sealed. The dam was built anyway. During the Great Storm of 1974, Arthur and several workers entered Spillway Tunnel 7 to manually open emergency floodgates. Deep underground, they heard voices calling from the darkness. One worker heard his dead wife. Another heard his mother. The deeper they descended, the louder the voices became. Eventually, they reached a gigantic underground cavern hidden beneath the dam. At the center stood an enormous ancient stone door covered in strange symbols. Black water surrounded it. Then the water moved. Something gigantic rose from beneath the cavern. Arthur described it as a massive pale creature made from countless human bodies fused together. Faces screamed endlessly from inside its flesh while hundreds of arms reached from its skin. The workers panicked and ran, but the creature followed them through the tunnels, while voices echoed from the walls. Arthur's brother Samuel stayed behind to collapse the tunnel with explosives, trapping the creature beneath thousands of tons of rock, or so they believed. Years later, another violent storm struck Hollow Ridge Dam. Arthur and Lily watched in horror as giant cracks spread across the concrete structure. Black water poured from inside the dam, and pale human faces appeared beneath the cracks, screaming silently. Then the floodgates exploded. A colossal pale creature emerged from inside the collapsing dam. Its many mouths screamed together, "Open the door!" The ground shook violently as something even larger awakened beneath the mountain itself. Arthur heard Samuel's voice calling from inside the creature. Without speaking, Arthur walked slowly into the black floodwater. Moments later, his face appeared, screaming from within the monster's flesh beside hundreds of trapped victims. As Lily escaped through the storm, the ancient stone door beneath Hollow Ridge slowly opened, and from somewhere deep underground, something enormous roared back.